Hey guys, I picked up some more welding gas, so let's just get back to it. All told, welding the rest of that up took me about 20 minutes. So you can see here, let's get a little more light in there maybe. There we go. You can see that it's just a bunch of stacked spot welds. For those of you not very familiar with sheet metal work, you can't really stitch it or it warps like crazy. So you just lay stacks and stacks of spot welds to weld sheet metal back together. This is pretty thick stuff, so I went a little overboard on some places figuring that it could take it. Plus, this is all hidden, so if it's a little warped, it's not really that big a deal. But next step, I need to go and clean those all down. And then from there, usually there's a few spots you have to weld up again, clean it back down, and we might be close to done on this at that point. You can see it's far from perfect. You can see some edges there, up here. A little bit of weld edge left down there. Just the edges of the welds that if I kept grinding, I might grind too deep. I do have a tendency to overgrind, so I'm trying to avoid that. And since this is all hidden, I think that is going to be plenty good enough. So part of this thing that's going to need a bunch of work is right here where the old door jamb used to be. So we're definitely going to have to do a bunch of work in order to make this something useful. My new door jamb comes to about right here, so it doesn't really tie directly into this. I don't know how I'm going to cap it. I think I still have the old pieces of this door frame, so I'll probably find that and cut out a big chunk of that in order to cap this over completely. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. I tore 2 spot welds out of the floor pan. I'll have to weld those up before I do anything. And then I put a nice cut in the floor pan here. So I'm going to have to weld that up before I continue on. But I can at least make this panel the right size. So we'll keep working on that. So since I hammered this thing out from a curved piece, it's got a bit of a bow to it. I'm not good enough with sheet metal to know exactly how to take that out. So I'm just going to force it out. I'm going to weld in one corner and then just start pushing and pulling and prying till we get it where we want it. But more or less, you can see I put that kind of bump into the metal here. Come on. Like that, to clear that divot in the floor there. Here you can see the spot welds I've got to clean up, the big gash that I've got to weld back in. But overall, I can hammer that edge flat and weld those, at least that strip together there. Fitment's pretty good along there. Once I weld in the ends, I'll just kind of hammer this edge down and hammer that one in if need be, till I've got a nice even meeting of those. Weld that all together. And then again, this end is pretty good. So that all should be fine. And then I'll probably hammer this edge down a bit here just so they kind of meet together slightly better. Fill that with weld. Same thing, fill that with a little weld. And then later on, depending on what I find where things go, I may come back and actually add in a pinch weld just so everything kind of looks and flows the same. I don't know if that will be necessary or worth my time, but that's what I'm looking at doing. And then along here, I'm going to weld it to this edge here, I think. Seal those up. And then I think I'll probably just drill some holes and spot weld it along the floor here. I think that's probably my best option. Just spot weld it down to the floor, and then maybe even a few stitches along the upper edge, and then I'll actually fully weld here, across here, and up here. Alright, well, that worked out pretty well. So that's why I'm a firm believer in never throwing away anything if I can avoid it. You never know what's going to come back around and be useful. It keeps me from having to go and try and find metal or keep a bunch of expensive metal on hand. And I'm reusing the gauge that was already here. I know it's going to work for what I'm trying to do, at least more or less. I know I removed some strength because I removed curves, but still, should overall do what I needed to do and work pretty well. And all I had to do was a little bit of cutting and hammering. So let's get started on fixing these holes. Alright, so there is that piece all tacked in. not too shabby. It's not perfect. It's got a little bit of a bow to it and whatnot, but again, this is a hidden piece of repair, so I'm not super worried about trying to dial this in perfect. It's just not worth the time. So I'll just have to weld all of this up, and then we rinse and repeat. On to the other side, I think. Alright, so we got that all welded in. Got a few stitches along the back there. And then all of this is all welded up. So that, nice and solid, good to go. Sweet. I was hoping that just undoing the bolts up in here, I don't know if you guys can really see that, sorry. Undoing the bolt that's up in here would free these up, but that's not the case. you can see there's up behind there, over here, is a whole other big old stud into the chassis of the car. So I think what I'm going to do is just come along and cut these off right here. I'll just cut those off completely, and that should allow those all to fall out. And then with those out of the way, I can get the rest of this bracketry off. And every rivet you guys saw me pull the head off will have to be removed and then welded over. So I've got, a good 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, got 10. I've got probably a good 18 to 20 holes in this side skirt that I'm going to have to weld up at some point. But I need the clean bare side skirt, which is what we're working on here. We've got the side skirt that comes down, and then we've got this bracket that I'm removing. The bracket held all the stupid plastic crap on, but I removed all that plastic. And so I need this bracket off so I can get a nice clean side skirt, because the clean side skirt is where I'm attaching the Travelall side skirts to the Tahoe. So, I guess back to it with the grinder. Even though I'm cutting all this off, I'm still taking these out because it's just a nice little 10mm nut and bolt. Just good random hardware, not very hard to get out. I'll take it. Oh yeah, this side's hanging down super low back there, looks like. I don't know what that is. But if I pick this side up 3/4, half an inch that it takes to align my alignment bolt on this side, I still think our best bet is probably to try and reshape this edge here. To try and reshape this edge here to flow down and through as much as we can. It won't be perfect, I bet. I don't think I'm that good with sheet metal. But I do think we can end up making something that will at least look halfway decent under there. And since this is where it all rolls under the vehicle, unless you're laying down, it'll probably look just fine. So, I think that's where we're going to call it for this week. We got some good steps taken on getting the Tallhoe. A lot of this work was all on the Tallhoe side of prep, getting it ready for Travelall install. We've got a few more steps that we have to take on the Travelall itself as well. I think we need to remove like the lower 3 inches of the A pillar and the B pillar and fix those. And then once we've got those in place, look it all over again, see what our next step is before we're ready to really lower it and set it in place. Hopefully by the end of next week we can actually be there, but I'm not super confident of that. Thanks guys. Catch you next time.